Captain Lee Dong stood on the bridge of the UES Teguk and watched the stars through the large viewing window. The ship had been traveling for 3 months now. They were far from Earth, further than any human had ever gone before. The year was 2387, and this was humanity's first real journey into deep space. The UES Teguk was not a warship. It was built for exploration and research. 200 brave humans worked on this ship. They came from all over Earth to be part of this historic mission. Their job was simple: find new worlds and see if there was life out there among the stars. Captain Lee walked to his command chair and sat down. He was 45 years old and had spent 20 years in Earth's space navy. He was calm and smart. The crew trusted him completely. His dark hair was starting to show gray at the sides. His brown eyes were always watching and thinking. "Captain," said Park Hana from her station. She was the chief tactical officer. Park Hana was 32 years, old and very good at her job. She had short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I am detecting something unusual ahead of us." Captain Lee turned his chair toward her. "What kind of something?" "Energy readings, sir. Very strong ones. There appears to be a large structure in this system. It was not showing up on our long-range eye scans before." Kim Min looked up from his communication station. He was 28 years old and the best communications officer in the Earth fleet. He had a friendly face but was very serious about his work. "Should I try to make contact, sir?" "Not yet," Captain Lee said. He stood up and walked to Park Hana's station. "Show me what you found." The main screen changed to show their scanner readings. There was definitely something big out there. It looked like a space station, but it was much larger than anything humans had ever built. The energy readings were unlike anything in their databases. "How big is it?" Captain Lee asked. "At least 5 kilometers long, sir. Maybe bigger. The energy signature is strange. It does not match any known technology." Captain Lee felt a chill run down his back. This could be it. This could be first contact with an alien species. Every human dreamed of this moment but also feared it. What if the aliens were not friendly? "Take us closer, but keep our distance. I want to know more about this thing before we announce ourselves." "Yes, sir," said the pilot. Lieutenant Yoon Jae was at the helm. He was 26 years old and could fly anything with engines. His steady hands guided the big ship through space. As they got closer, more details appeared on their screens. The structure was definitely artificial. It had smooth metal surfaces and strange designs that no human architect would create. But something was odd about it. There were no lights, no movement, no energy signatures that suggested life. "It looks dead, sir," Park Hana reported. "No signs of active systems or crew." Dr. Choi Soo looked up from her science station. She was the ship's xenobiologist, an expert on the possibility of alien life. She was 35 years old with long black hair tied back in a ponytail. Her job was to study any life forms they might find. "Captain, this could be an incredible discovery. An abandoned alien facility. Think of what we could learn." Captain Lee nodded but stayed careful. "Kim Min, try sending a standard greeting message. Use all the mathematical and scientific languages we prepared." "Sending now, sir." They waited. The message went out across all frequencies. It contained basic mathematics, atomic structures, and peaceful intentions. If there was anyone out there to receive it, this should show them that humans were intelligent and friendly. Minutes passed. Nothing came back. "Try again," Captain Lee ordered. Kim Min sent the message again, then again, still nothing. "Sir," Park Hana said, "I recommend we move closer. If it really is abandoned, we could send a team to investigate." Captain Lee thought about this. The mission orders were clear. Make contact with alien life if possible, and learn as much as they could. This could be the chance of a lifetime, right? "Take us to within 1 kilometer. Keep all sensors active and weapons ready just in case." "Weapons, sir?" Park Hana asked. "I thought this was a peaceful mission." "It is, but being peaceful does not mean being stupid." As the UES Teguk moved closer to the alien structure, Everyone on the bridge felt the tension growing. This was the moment that could change human history forever. Suddenly, the alien structure came to life. Lights appeared all along its surface. Energy readings spiked to incredible levels. The structure began to move and change shape. What had looked like a dead space station was actually a massive warship. "Captain!" Park Hana shouted. "That thing is powering up weapons." "All stop," Captain Lee ordered. "Raise shields. Ready defensive systems." The alien ship was enormous. As it fully activated, they could see it was at least twice as big as they had first thought. Weapon ports opened along its hull. Strange energy patterns flowed across its surface. Then they received a message. The voice that came through their speakers was cold and mechanical. It spoke in perfect English somehow. "Primitive vessel, you have entered Velkari space. I am Commander Vextar of the Velkari Empire. You will surrender your ship immediately. Your crew will be processed according to Velkari law." Captain Lee stepped forward. "This is Captain Lee Dong of the United Earthship Teguk. We are explorers, on a peaceful mission. We did not know this was your territory. We can leave immediately if you wish." "Negative. Your species is unknown to us. Unknown species must be catalogued and processed. Resistance will result in destruction of your vessel." Park Hana looked at her captain. "Sir, they have us outgunned by a huge margin. Their weapons are far more advanced than ours." Captain Lee thought quickly. Everything about this situation was wrong. The alien who called himself Commander Vextar sounded like he had done this many times before. The word processed did not sound good at all. "Commander Vextar, we request safe passage to leave your space. We have no intention of causing trouble." "Your request is denied. Prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to flee will result in your immediate destruction." Captain Lee looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him. They trusted him to make the right decision. These aliens clearly saw humans as nothing more than specimens to be collected. "Kim Min, send an emergency message to Earth. Tell them what we found here." "Already done, sir, but it will take years to reach home." "Park Hana, what are our options?" "Not many, sir. We could try to run, but they would catch us easily. We could fight, but we would lose quickly. Or we could surrender and hope they really do mean just to process us." Captain Lee made his choice. "We are not surrendering to anyone. If they want to fight, we will give them one. Maybe we cannot win, but we can show them that humans do not go quietly." "Sir," Dr. Choi Su said quietly, "what if we try to learn about them while we fight? Study their technology and tactics?" Captain Lee smiled for the first time since this began. "Exactly what I was thinking. If we are going to lose, let us make sure Earth learns something from our sacrifice." The Velkari ship moved closer, its weapons charged to full power. "All hands battle stations," Captain Lee announced over the ship's communication system. "This is first contact with an alien species. They are not friendly. We will defend ourselves and gather as much information as we can. Make humanity proud." The first shots from the alien ship hit their shields. The battle for humanity's future had begun. 3 weeks had passed since the UES Teguk escaped from Commander Vextar's warship. Captain Lee Dong sat in his ready room reading reports from his crew. They had survived their first battle with aliens, but barely. The fight had been short, but brutal. The Velkari ship fired massive energy beams that nearly destroyed their shields in seconds. But Park Hana had been clever. She used the asteroid field around them to break up the alien weapons fire. The rocks absorbed much of the energy. While the Velkari ship tried to get a clear shot, Chief Engineer Yoon Jae had done something amazing. He managed to scan their weapons and shields during the battle. The human computers recorded everything. "Captain," Dr. Choi Su entered his ready room. She looked tired, but excited. "I have finished studying the Velkari transmission we recorded." "What did you find?" "Their language patterns are very structured, almost like a computer program. There is no emotion or creativity in how they speak. They follow exact rules for everything." Captain Lee leaned back in his chair. "What does that mean for us?" I think they are a warrior race that values order, above all else. They probably conquered other species by following the same battle plans over and over. It worked because most species would panic when faced with superior technology. But we did not panic. Exactly. We adapted during the fight. We used their own weapons fire against them by hiding behind asteroids. That probably confused them, greatly. Captain Lee nodded. The escape had been close. Too close. But they had learned valuable things about their enemy. Meanwhile, far across space, High Commander Zekthor stood in the command center of the Velkari battle station. He was reading Commander Vextar's report about the human ship. The report made no sense. You lost them? Zekthor's voice was cold and sharp. Yes, sir. The primitive ship used unusual tactics. They hid among space rocks and used our own weapon, energy, to create sensor shadows. Impossible. No species has ever escaped from a Velkari warship. The humans did, sir. They also seemed to be studying our weapons during the battle. High Commander Zekthor was 7 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered 17 star systems in the past 1,000 years. No enemy had ever given them real trouble. Send Battle Squadron 7 to hunt down this human ship. 12 ships should be more than enough to destroy one primitive vessel. Sir, I recommend using more ships. The humans showed unusual abilities. 12 ships, Commander. Do not question my orders again. Back on the UES Taeguk, Chief Engineer Yun Jae was working day and night in the engine room. The young officer had taken apart several pieces of equipment damaged by Velkari weapons. What he found surprised him. Captain, you need to see this. Yun Jae called over the communication system. Captain Lee arrived in the engineering section minutes later. Yun Jae showed him a piece of melted metal that had been hit by a Velkari energy beam. Look at this pattern, sir. The alien weapons use a very pure energy form, much more advanced than our weapons, but there is something strange about it. What? The energy frequency never changes. It stays exactly the same during the entire battle. Our weapons automatically adjust their frequency to get through enemy shields. Theirs do not. Captain Lee studied the melted metal. They do not adapt their weapons during battle. It appears not, sir. They probably have very powerful standard settings that work against most enemies. But if we could adjust our shield frequency to match their weapons, we could absorb more of their energy before our shields fail. Exactly, sir. And there is more. I studied their ship design from our sensor readings. It is very advanced but also very standardized. Every Velkari ship probably has the same weapons in the same places. Captain Lee smiled. So once we know how to fight one Velkari ship, we know how to fight them all. That is my theory, sir. Dr. Choi Soo had been listening from the doorway. Captain, I have been thinking about their psychology. If they are as rigid as their technology, they might not be able to handle unexpected situations very well. What do you mean? They expect enemies to fight in predictable ways. When we hid behind asteroids, we broke their battle plan. They probably did not know how to respond. Captain Lee gathered his senior officers in the conference room that evening. He looked at each face around the table. These people had survived first contact with a hostile alien race. Now they needed to prepare for what came next. The Velkari will send more ships after us, he began. They cannot let us escape and tell Earth about them. We need to be ready. Park Hana leaned forward. Sir, we got lucky in that last fight. If there had been 2 Velkari ships, we would be dead now. Maybe, but we learned things they do not expect us to know. Yun Jae, tell them about the weapons. The chief engineer explained his discoveries about Velkari technology. Their weapons were powerful but inflexible. Their ships followed standard designs. Their tactics seemed to be the same against all enemies. So we have advantages they do not know about, Captain Lee concluded. But we are still just one ship against an entire empire. Sir, said Lieutenant Nam Gil from the science station, what if we do not fight them the way they expect? Explain. Every space battle in history has been ship against ship. Big guns, firing at each other until one side wins. But what if we do not play by those rules? Dr. Choi Soo nodded slowly. Use human creativity against their rigid thinking. Exactly. Make them come to us. Choose the battlefield. Force them to adapt to our tactics instead of using theirs. Captain Lee thought about this. It was risky, but it might work. Where would we make our stand? Park Hana brought up a star chart on the table display. Here, sir. The Kepler 442 system has 3 asteroid belts. Lots of rocks to hide behind. Multiple escape routes if we need them. And if we lose, then at least we give Earth more time to prepare. Every day we keep the Velkari busy is another day for our home to get ready for war. 2 days later, sensors detected 12 Velkari ships approaching their position. The alien battle squadron moved in perfect formation. Each ship was identical to Commander Vextar's vessel. They spread out as they entered the asteroid field, but they moved slowly and carefully. They are being cautious, sir, Park Hana reported. They remember what happened last time. Good. Cautious enemies make mistakes. Are our surprises ready? Yes, sir. Yoon Jae has been very busy. The chief engineer had worked miracles in just 2 days. He used salvaged Velkari technology to create small devices that could attach to asteroids. The devices would explode when Velkari ships came close, sending rock fragments flying at high speed. 12 ships, Captain Lee said quietly. Against our 1. Those are terrible odds. Yes, sir, but they do not know what we learned from our last battle. Signal all departments, battle stations. Let us show these Velkari that humans do not give up easily. The first Velkari ship entered the asteroid field. It moved slowly, scanning for the human vessel. Its sensors were powerful, but they could not see through solid rock. Captain Lee watched from his bridge as the alien ship spread out to search for them. Soon the Velkari would learn that humans were full of surprises. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin again. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler 442. High Commander Zekthor stood before the Velkari War Council with his head lowered in shame. Battle Squadron 7 was gone. All 12 ships had been destroyed by a single human vessel. Emperor Krulvash sat on his throne made of black metal. His 4 red eyes stared down at Zekthor with cold anger. The Emperor was ancient, even by Velkari standards. He had ruled the Empire for 300 years. Explain to me. The Emperor's voice echoed through the chamber, how one primitive ship destroyed 12 of our finest warships. The humans used tactics we have never seen before, my lord. They turned the asteroid field into a weapon. They made traps from space rocks and used them against our ships. Impossible. No species has such abilities. The humans do, my lord. They do not fight like other races. They adapt during battle. They create new tactics in real time. Emperor Krulvash stood up from his throne. He was 8 feet tall, and his gray skin was covered in battle scars. Send the 4th Fleet, 50 ships. End this human problem once and for all. My lord, perhaps we should study them more before. No more study. No more waiting. The humans will be destroyed. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Song Wook sat in the United Earth Defense Command Center. He was reading Captain Lee Dong's latest report from deep space. The news was both exciting and terrifying. The UES Taeguk had not only survived 2 battles with alien forces, but had actually won both fights. Even more amazing, they had captured enough Velkari technology to begin understanding how it worked. How long until we can build ships with this new technology? Admiral Song asked his chief scientist. Dr. Park Min was Earth's leading expert on advanced physics. She had been studying the Velkari technology data for months. We can have the first hybrid ships ready in 1 year, sir. But we need more information about Velkari military structure. What kind of information? How many ships do they have? How many worlds do they control? Are there other species fighting them? Admiral Song nodded. These were important questions. Earth needed allies if they were going to survive a war with an alien empire. Back in space, Captain Lee Dong was thinking the same thing. The UES Taeguk was hiding in a nebula near the border of Velkari space. They had been watching alien ship movements for weeks. Captain, Dr. Choi Soo said as she entered his ready room. I have finished translating more Velkari communications. You need to see this. She showed him a tablet with decoded alien messages. They mentioned something called the Nakari. It appears to be another species that fought the Velkari years ago. What happened to them? The Velkari defeated them and took their worlds, but some Nakari ships escaped to the outer rim of the galaxy. Captain Lee studied the information. So there are other species that have fought the Velkari and survived. It looks that way, sir. If we could find them, maybe we could work together. Make it happen, Doctor. We need all the help we can get. 2 weeks later, the UES Taeguk found a small Nakari colony on a hidden moon. The Nakari were reptilian beings with green scales and large yellow eyes. They had been hiding from the Velkari. For 20 years, Ambassador Kangnari led the first contact mission. She was Earth's best diplomat and spoke 17 human languages. Learning alien languages was a new challenge for her. The Nakari leader was called Sisk. He was old and scarred from many battles. When he first saw humans, he did not trust them. Another young species, Sisk said through the translation device, "You will fall to the Velkari just like we did." "We have fought them twice and won both times," Ambassador Kang replied. Sisk, quote, "S yellow eyes widened in surprise. Impossible. The Velkari cannot be defeated in battle. We have proof. Our ship destroyed 12 of their warships last month." The Nakari leader was quiet for a long time. Then he called for his council of elders. They spoke in their own language for hours. Finally, Sisk returned to meet with the human ambassador. "If what you say is true, then perhaps there is hope. But the Velkari are preparing something big. Our spies report massive fleet movements." "What kind of movements?" "They are gathering their reserve fleets, over 200 ships, maybe more. They plan to attack your homeworld directly." Ambassador Kang felt her blood turn cold. 200 alien warships attacking Earth. Humanity was not ready for that kind of battle. "We need to warn Earth immediately," she told Captain Lee. "Already done, but the message will take months to reach home. By then it might be too late." Meanwhile, Emperor Krulvash was indeed preparing for a massive attack. The Fourth Fleet had been destroyed just like Battle Squadron 7. 50 Velkari ships lost to a single human vessel. The Emperor could not believe it. "Gather every ship we have," he ordered High Commander Zekthor. "Every battleship, every cruiser, every destroyer. We will burn the human homeworld to ash. My lord, that will leave our other territories undefended. I do not care. The humans have become too dangerous. They inspire rebellion in our conquered species. If we do not stop them now, our entire empire could fall." The largest fleet in Velkari history began moving toward Earth. Over 300 ships of war, every one of them armed with weapons that could destroy cities. On Earth, Admiral Song Wook received Captain Lee's warning message. He immediately called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. "We have maybe 6 months before they arrive," he told the assembled leaders. "Maybe less." "How many ships can we have ready by then?" asked President Kim Jae. 30 hybrid ships using Velkari technology, maybe 40 if we work around the clock. 40 ships against 300, those are impossible odds. Dr. Park Min stood up. "Not impossible, sir. Difficult, yes, but the Velkari have a weakness. They cannot adapt to new tactics during battle. If we can surprise them, we might have a chance." "What kind of surprise?" "Captain Lee's reports show that Velkari ships are designed to fight other large ships. They expect traditional space battles. But what if we do not give them a traditional battle?" Admiral Song leaned forward. "Explain." "Build small, fast ships instead of big ones. Use swarm tactics. Hit them from all directions at once. Make it impossible for them to target us effectively." It was a desperate plan, but it was the only plan they had. Earth shipyards began working 24 hours a day. Every available resource was used to build humanity's defense fleet. Captain Lee Dong received new orders. "Return to Earth immediately. Bring all the Velkari technology and tactical data they had gathered. Most importantly, bring their new Nakari allies." "Sisk," Captain Lee said to the reptilian leader, "will your people fight beside us?" The old Nakari was quiet for a moment. Then he showed his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. The Velkari destroyed our world and enslaved our people. If you humans can truly defeat them, then yes, we will fight beside you. As the UES Teguk began its journey back to Earth, Captain Lee looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the largest alien war fleet in history was heading toward his home. Earth had 6 months to prepare for a battle that would decide the fate of humanity. The real war was about to begin. 1 year after first contact, the Velkari Grand Fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Emperor Krulvash himself commanded from the massive flagship domination. He expected to find a primitive world defended by a few small ships. Instead, his sensors detected something impossible. "Report," the Emperor demanded from his command throne. "My lord." High Commander Zekthor studied the readings carefully. "There are over 1,000 ships defending the human homeworld." 1,000? Impossible. Our intelligence said they had no space fleet. "The ships are small, my lord. Much smaller than standard warships. Most are only 50 meters long." Emperor Krulvash looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was spread throughout their solar system like a cloud of insects. Each ship was tiny compared to Velkari vessels, but there were so many of them. "No matter. Small ships cannot harm our battleships. Begin the attack." Fleet Admiral BAE Jin commanded the human defense from her flagship, the UES Unity. But her ship looked exactly like the other 999 vessels in the fleet. The Velkari could not tell which ship held the human commander. This was part of the plan. "All ships, this is Admiral BAE. Remember your training. We are not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We just need to make them retreat. Make them afraid to fight us again." The first wave of Velkari ships entered the inner solar system. They moved in perfect formation, just as humans expected. Each alien vessel was over 1 kilometer long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon dot. But they were also slow and hard to turn. "Attack pattern Alpha," Admiral BAE ordered. "All squadrons engage." The human fleet moved like a swarm of angry bees. Groups of 10 ships would dart in toward a Velkari vessel, fire their weapons, then speed away before the aliens could respond. The Velkari found themselves trying to swat flies with hammers. Dr. Han Sol watched the battle from Earth's orbital command station. She had studied insect behavior for years. Now her research was being used to save humanity. "The swarm intelligence is working perfectly," she reported to Admiral Song Wook. "Each human ship is making its own decisions, but they are all working toward the same goal." "How are our losses?" "Minimal so far. We have lost 12 ships. The Velkari have lost 38. Admiral Song could hardly believe it. Human ships? It cost 1/10 as much as Velkari vessels were winning the battle. In space, Commander Pilot Shin Yu led Squadron 7 in an attack on a Velkari heavy cruiser. His ship was fast and carried powerful weapons built from captured alien technology. "Target their engine section," Shin Yu ordered his squadron. "Quick strikes, then get out." The 10 human ships swooped down on the Velkari cruiser like birds of prey. Their weapons hit the alien ship's engines and weapon systems. Before the cruiser could fire back, the human ships were gone. "Direct hit," reported his gunner. "Enemy vessel losing power." But Shin Yu was already thinking about their next target. This was not like the old days when ships would line up and trade shots until one side was destroyed. This was three-dimensional warfare at its finest. On the Velkari flagship, Emperor Krulvash was getting angry. "Why cannot our ships hit these insects?" "My lord, they are too fast and there are too many of them. Our targeting systems cannot track so many small objects at once. Then send fighters to destroy them." "We have no fighters, my lord. We have always used only large ships." This was the Velkari weakness that humans had discovered. For thousands of years they had fought enemies who used the same tactics they did. Big ships fighting other big ships. They had never faced an enemy that refused to play by the traditional rules. The battle continued for 6 hours. Human ships darted in and out like shadows, striking at Velkari vessels and disappearing before return fire could hit them. The aliens began to panic as more of their ships were damaged or destroyed. Then Shin Yu led a daring attack on the Emperor's flagship itself. "Squadron 7, follow me in. We are going to board that monster. Sir, our ships are too small to dock with theirs. Who said anything about docking? Shin Yu's plan was crazy, but it might work. Instead of trying to destroy the huge Velkari ship from outside, they would go inside and attack its control systems directly. The human ships approached the flagship at high speed. At the last second, they fired small pods that attached to the alien ship's hull. Each pod contained 5 human marines in powered armor. Colonel O'Rin led the boarding party. She was a veteran of Earth's toughest military units. Her powered armor made her stronger than 10 normal humans, and her weapons could cut through alien metal like paper. Move fast, she told her team over the radio. We have 20 minutes before their security systems adapt to our presence. The human marines cut through the Velkari hull and entered the enemy ship. What they found inside surprised them. The corridors were huge, designed for beings much larger than humans. Everything was built for strength, not speed. They build everything like tanks, one Marine reported. Good, Colonel O replied. Tanks are slow. The humans moved through the alien ship like ghosts. Their armor was designed for speed and stealth. The Velkari had built their ship to resist attacks from other large vessels, not small teams of infiltrators. When Velkari soldiers tried to stop them, the humans were already gone, moving through maintenance tunnels and air vents that the aliens had never considered as attack routes. Colonel O reached the ship's main computer core. Plant the charges. We are taking this information back to Earth. The Marines attached small devices to the Velkari computers. The devices would copy all the information they could before the ship's security systems could stop them. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the flagship, Emperor Krulvash was discovering that humans had boarded his ship. How is this possible? He roared. How did they get inside? Unknown, my lord. Our sensors show small craft attached to our hull, but they are too small to carry boarding parties. Find them and destroy them. But the human marines were already leaving. They had what they came for. Colonel O led her team back to their insertion point where Shin Yu waited with the escape pods. Did you get it? Shin Yu asked. Everything. Ship layouts, weapon systems, communication codes. Earth intelligence will be very happy. As the human boarding party escaped, Emperor Krulvash made a decision that shocked his own forces. All ships retreat to the outer system. My lord? You heard me. Retreat. Now. High Commander Zekthor could not believe what he was hearing. Sir, we still outnumber them 3-1. Numbers do not matter if we cannot hit them. These humans fight like nothing we have ever seen. We need new tactics. The Velkari fleet withdrew from the inner solar system. For the first time in their empire's history, they had retreated from battle. Admiral Bae Jin watched the alien fleet. Pull back. All ships do not pursue. Let them go. Admiral, we could finish them, one captain suggested. No. We achieved our goal. We made them afraid of us. On Earth, celebrations broke out in every city. Humanity had faced the largest alien war fleet in known history and sent them running. But Admiral Song Wook knew this was only the beginning. They will be back, he told President Kim Jae. And next time they will be ready for our tactics. Then, we better be ready with new ones. Dr. Han Sol was already working on new ideas. What if we could get other species to fight alongside us? Build a coalition? Captain Lee Dong, who had recently returned from deep space, nodded. The Nakari want revenge against the Velkari. There might be others. How many other species are under Velkari control? According to our intelligence, at least 40 different races across 17 star systems. Admiral Song smiled for the first time in months. Then let us go free them. It is time to take this war to the enemy. The battle of Seoul was over, but the real fight was just beginning. 18 months after the Battle of Seoul, the impossible was happening across the galaxy. The Velkari Empire was falling apart. World after world was rising up against their alien masters. And at the center of every rebellion were human advisors and weapons. Colonel O'Rin stood on the bridge of the liberation ship UES Freedom. Through the viewing window, she could see the planet Kelos burning in the distance. The Keelan people had been slaves of the Velkari for 50 years. Now they were fighting for their freedom. Colonel, her communication officer, called out, "The Keelan ground forces are requesting immediate support. Velkari reinforcements have arrived. Send in the Terran Liberation Corps. All units, this is Colonel O. The Keelans need our help. Show these Velkari why they should fear human soldiers." The first shuttles launched from the Freedom carrying human marines and alien volunteers. This was the new way of war. Humans did not conquer worlds. They liberated them. They turned enemies into allies. On the planet's surface, Keelan warriors fought alongside human soldiers. The Keelans were tall and blue-skinned with 4 arms. They had been peaceful farmers before the Velkari enslaved them. Now they carried human weapons and used human tactics. "Remember your training," Sergeant Kim Hay told a group of Keelan fighters. "The Velkari expect you to charge straight at them. Instead, we use cover and movement." The human sergeant was young but experienced. He had fought on 12 different worlds in the past year. Each battle taught him something new about working with alien allies. The Velkari defenders had superior weapons and armor, but they could not adapt to the new fighting style. Human-trained rebels appeared from everywhere at once. They used guerrilla tactics that the rigid Velkari military could not counter. Within hours, the Velkari garrison surrendered. Another world was free. Far away. In the Velkari capital system, Emperor Krulvash received the news with growing despair. Kelos was the 15th world lost this month. 40% of his empire was now in open rebellion. "How many human ships are out there?" he demanded. High Commander Zekthor looked at the intelligence reports. "Our best estimate is 200 ships, my lord. But they move so fast, we cannot track them all." 200 ships are defeating our entire empire? "It is not just the ships, my lord. It is what they do. They find species that hate us and give them weapons and training. Then they move on to the next world. Each rebellion makes the next one easier." Emperor Krulvash slammed his 4 fists on his throne. The humans were like a disease spreading through his empire. Every world they touched turned against him. "We need to capture some of these humans alive. Study them. Learn their weaknesses." "My lord, we have tried. They fight to the death rather than be taken prisoner." This was true. Human soldiers had earned a reputation for incredible bravery. They would sacrifice themselves to save alien civilians they had never met before. This confused the Velkari greatly. On another front, Chief Science Officer Nam Gil was conducting a different kind of mission. His ship, the UES Discovery, was approaching a Velkari prison world where political prisoners were held. "Target acquired," his pilot reported. "The prison facility is heavily defended." "Perfect," Nam Gil replied. "The harder they defend it, the more important it must be." The Discovery was not a warship. It was a science vessel equipped with the latest human stealth technology. Instead of fighting the prison guards, they would sneak past them. Nam Gil led a small team down to the planet's surface. They used personal cloaking devices copied from captured Velkari technology, but improved with human engineering. The alien guards could not see them coming. Inside the prison, they found something shocking. The prisoners were not just rebels and criminals. Many were Velkari scientists and philosophers who had questioned their empire's methods. "You are humans," one elderly Velkari prisoner whispered in amazement. "The species that fights our empire." "We are here to free you," Nam Gil replied through his translator. "Why?" "We are your enemies." "No. Your leaders are our enemies. You are just people who want to think for themselves." Among the prisoners was a Velkari female named Kira. She had been a government scientist before being imprisoned for suggesting that other species might have valuable ideas. When she saw humans risking their lives to save Velkari prisoners, her entire worldview changed. "Your people," she said to Nam Gil as they escaped the prison, "you fight differently than anyone we have ever seen." "How do you mean?" "You turn enemies into friends. You make the weak strong. You give hope to those who have none." Nam Gil thought about this. "We do what we think is right. That is what makes you dangerous to our empire. You prove that there is another way to live." The prison break was successful, but something even more important happened. Kira and 12 other Velkari joined the Human Alliance. For the first time, members of the ruling species were fighting against their own empire. This news spread quickly through Velkari space. If their own people were joining the humans, then maybe the humans were not the monsters the government claimed they were. Back on Earth, Admiral Song Wook was studying reports from across the galaxy. The liberation campaign was working better than anyone had hoped. But he was worried about something. "We are winning too easily," he told President Kim Jae during their weekly briefing. "The Velkari have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They should not collapse this quickly. Maybe we are just better fighters than they are. Or maybe they are not the real enemy." Dr. Choi Soo, who had become Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, agreed with the Admiral. "I have been studying captured Velkari communications. There are references to something called the hegemony. It seems to be above the Velkari in some kind of hierarchy." "What kind of hierarchy?" "I am not sure, but the Velkari seem to fear this hegemony more than they fear us." This mystery deepened when Namgil returned from his mission with the rescued Velkari prisoners. Kira had agreed to share information about her former empire. "The Velkari are not the true rulers of the galaxy," she explained to Earth's intelligence officers. "We serve beings called the Hegemony Masters. They have controlled galactic civilization for millions of years." "What are these Hegemony Masters?" Admiral Song asked. "Ancient beings who transcended physical form long ago. They use species like the Velkari as tools to maintain order. When a species becomes too independent or creative, the Velkari are sent to conquer or destroy them. So the Velkari are slaves too?" "In a way, yes. We were bred and modified over thousands of years to be perfect soldiers. We lost our ability to think creatively or question orders. It made us excellent tools for the hegemony." Admiral Song felt a chill run down his spine. What happens when the hegemony decides humanity is too dangerous? They will send something much worse than the Velkari. This revelation changed everything. Earth was not just fighting an empire. They were fighting a system of control that had existed since before human civilization began. President Kim Jae called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. "If this is true, then every victory we achieve makes us a bigger target." "Maybe," Admiral Song replied. "Or maybe it gives us a chance to free the entire galaxy. Think about it. How many species have been controlled by this hegemony? How many would fight alongside us if they knew the truth?" Captain Lee Dong, now promoted to Commodore, had been thinking about this problem. "We need to find the hegemony masters and face them directly. As long as they exist, no species in the galaxy will ever be truly free." "Do we even know where they are?" Kira answered this question. "They have a base of operations in the galactic core, a place called the Nexus. No Velkari has ever been there, but our leaders receive orders from that direction." Dr. Hansol looked at the star charts. "The galactic core is 25,000 light-years from Earth. It would take years to reach." "Then we better start building the ships we will need," Admiral Song decided. "This war is far from over." As Earth began preparing for an even greater conflict, rebellions continued to spread across Velkari space. The domino effect was unstoppable now. Each liberated world inspired 3 more to rebel. Colonel Orin received new orders. Instead of liberating individual worlds, her mission was now to find and recruit the leaders of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Earth needed allies who could stand against beings that had controlled the stars for millions of years. The real enemy was finally revealing itself, and humanity was about to discover just how deep the conspiracy against freedom really went. 2 years after first contact, the largest fleet in galactic history moved toward the center of the galaxy. Admiral Lee Dong commanded over 10,000 ships from 43 different species. Every vessel flew under the banner of the Free Galaxy Coalition. The journey to the Hegemony Nexus had taken 8 months. Along the way, they had liberated entire star systems and recruited new allies. The Zephyrians brought their advanced shield technology. The Corvani contributed their knowledge of quantum weapons. The Nakari provided intelligence about hegemony. operations. But it was human leadership that held the coalition together. Admiral, Captain Park Hana reported from the bridge of the flagship UES Liberation. We are approaching the galactic core. Sensors are detecting massive energy signatures. Ahead. The Nexus? Has to be, sir. The readings are unlike anything we have ever seen. Admiral Lee stood at the front of his bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead was an enemy that had controlled the galaxy for millions of years. An enemy that had turned entire species into slaves and tools. Today, that would end. Signal all ships. Prepare for the final battle. The Hegemony Nexus was not a space station or a planet. It was something far stranger. As the Coalition fleet drew closer, they could see a massive structure that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. Energy patterns flowed around it like liquid light. What is that thing? Colonel O-Rin asked from her position at the tactical station. Master Tactician Im-Su had been studying the structure for hours. She was Earth's finest military strategist and had planned this entire campaign. I think it is a dimensional anchor, a way for beings of pure energy to interact with physical reality. So the Hegemony Masters really are beyond physical form? It appears so. But they still need technology to affect our universe. Suddenly, the space around the Nexus filled with ships. But these were not normal vessels. They seemed to be made of the same energy patterns as the Nexus itself. Thousands of them, each one glowing with power. Coalition fleet. A voice spoke directly into their minds, not through communication systems. You have traveled far to reach your destruction. We are the Hegemony. We have maintained order in this galaxy since your species were primitive animals. You will surrender immediately. Admiral Lee activated the fleet communication system. This is Admiral Lee Dong of the Free Galaxy Coalition. We reject your authority. We demand the freedom of all species under your control. Freedom is chaos. Order is peace. You will be processed like all the others. The first wave of Hegemony ships attacked. Their weapons were pure energy that could cut through any known armor. But the Coalition fleet was ready for this. Execute Plan Omega, Admiral Lee ordered. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, the Coalition ships scattered in all directions. They had learned from fighting the Velkari that rigid battle lines were a weakness. The human doctrine of adaptive warfare was now shared by every species in the fleet. Zephyrian ships used their advanced shields to absorb Hegemony energy weapons and redirect the power to their own systems. Corvani vessels fired quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple dimensions, at once making them impossible to intercept. Nakari fighters swarmed around the larger Hegemony ships like angry insects. But it was the humans who provided the key to victory. Captain Shin Yu led a strike force of the fastest ships in the fleet toward the Nexus itself. If we can damage their dimensional anchor, we might be able to cut them off from their power source. That is suicide, one of his pilots protested. The energy levels around that thing would destroy our ships. Maybe. But somebody has to try. As the strike force approached the Nexus, they discovered something unexpected. The structure was not entirely artificial. Parts of it appeared to be organic, as if living beings had merged with technology over millions of years. Dr. Choi Su, who was aboard one of the strike ships, made a shocking discovery. Admiral, I am detecting life signs inside the Nexus, not energy beings, organic life. What kind of life? It is hard to tell, but the patterns suggest they were once similar to us, carbon-based life forms that have been heavily modified. This changed everything. The Hegemony Masters were not transcendent beings. They were organic creatures that had used technology to extend their lives and increase their power. But in doing so, they had given up something essential. Captain Park Hana led a boarding party into the Nexus itself. What they found inside was horrifying. Thousands of beings from dozens of species were connected to machines that drained their creativity and individuality. These were not willing servants, but prisoners whose minds had been harvested for millions of years. This is what the Hegemony really is, Park Hana reported back to the fleet. They steal the thoughts and dreams of others to maintain their power. At the center of the nexus, they found the hegemony masters themselves. They had once been a species much like humans, but they had replaced their bodies with machines and their emotions with cold logic. They could no longer create or grow or change. They could only take from others. "You cannot stop us," the lead hegemony master spoke through mechanical devices. "We have controlled this galaxy for eons. We know every tactic, every strategy." "But you do not know how to adapt," Park Hana replied. "You cannot create something new because you gave up that ability long ago." The final battle was not fought with weapons but with ideas. The coalition forces did not try to destroy the hegemony masters. Instead, they began freeing the minds that were trapped in the nexus. As each prisoner was released, the hegemony grew weaker. Species that had been enslaved for thousands of years suddenly remembered who they used to be. They remembered their own cultures, their own dreams, their own ways of thinking, and they joined the coalition in liberating others. The hegemony masters found themselves facing something they had never encountered, a truly free galaxy where every species could contribute its own unique perspective to solving problems. "This is impossible," the lead master said as his power continued to drain away. "Order requires control. Freedom leads to chaos." "No," Admiral Lee said as he entered the central chamber of the Nexus. "Freedom leads to growth, to change, to becoming something better than what you were before." The hegemony masters made one final attempt to maintain their control. They tried to activate a weapon that would destroy every thinking being in the galaxy, rather than let them remain free. But Master Tactician Im Su had anticipated this. The coalition forces had prepared for exactly this situation. "All species, implement the Unity Protocol," she ordered. Every ship in the coalition fleet linked their computers together, creating a single network of minds working toward the same goal. Human creativity combined with Zephyrian logic, Corvani quantum thinking, and Nakari pattern recognition. Together they created something that had never existed before, a truly unified but diverse consciousness. This new form of thinking was so far beyond what the hegemony masters could understand that their ancient systems could not process it. Their weapon failed to activate. Their control system shut down. Their power simply faded away. But the masters did not die. Instead, something unexpected happened. The coalition consciousness reached out to them and offered them something they had not experienced in millions of years, the chance to grow and change again. "Join us," Admiral Lee said to the lead master, "not as rulers but as equals. Help us build something better than what came before." For the first time in eons, the hegemony masters felt something they had forgotten. Hope. One by one, they began to disconnect from their machines. Their energy forms slowly began to take on physical characteristics again. They were choosing to become mortal, to become vulnerable, to become capable of growth once more. The galaxy was free. Not because the enemies had been destroyed, but because they had been transformed. Years later, Admiral Li Dong, now an old man, stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth. Through the window, he could see ships from dozens of species working together to build new worlds and explore distant galaxies. The former Velkari territories had become independent systems where each species could develop according to its own nature. The Keelans had returned to farming, but now grew food for dozens of worlds. The Nakari had become master engineers, building ships that could travel between dimensions. Even the Velkari themselves had changed. Free from their genetic conditioning, they were rediscovering their capacity for art and philosophy. Many had become teachers, helping other species understand the dangers of giving up freedom for security. Dr. Choi Su, now director of the Galactic Cultural Exchange, joined Lee at the observation window. Her hair was gray, but her eyes still sparkled with curiosity. "The latest reports show over 200 species have joined the Free Galaxy Coalition," she said, each one bringing new ideas and perspectives. "And the former hegemony masters? They are adapting well to physical form. It turns out they were brilliant scientists before they lost themselves to machines. Now they are helping us understand technologies we never imagined possible." Lee smiled as he watched a group of young beings from different species playing together in the station's recreation area. Human children laughed alongside young Nakari and Zephyrians. They were growing up in a galaxy where diversity was celebrated, not feared. "You know what the strangest part is?" Lee said. "What?" "The title,